It's day 17 of my 31-day challenge. The question today is, what is unique about you, your personality traits, or your skills? And I had to look this up. I had to look it up, and I was thinking unique. Okay, in what context? Well, what they're saying is, what experiences have you had in your life or in your skill set, in your education, in your relationships? What unique things have happened to you to form the person that you are today? Well, okay, that's a little easier. Okay, so we'll start off at the very beginning. So as a young person, as a child, I grew up in a lower economic bracket. Okay, so I grew up in the 60s when times were tough. And they talk about people having that Depression era mentality. Well, I was raised in an era where things were tight financially and where you had to struggle to feed your family and to maintain work and to have a home and things like that. And so I was raised in a single parent family, and things were tough. Things were tough, I'll tell you. There were times of necessity and there was times of plenty, but I learned from those instances in my life. I learned from being raised in those type of tough times. I learned to be frugal. I learned how to budget. I learned so many skills that make me the person I am today. Now, I've had a varied life. I have had many different careers, and I've gone from one extreme to the other. I've gone from male-dominated trades to female-dominated trades. And the truth is, back in my day, society looked hard on women who tried to get into a male-dominated trade. When I joined the military, I was 17. I joined the military. I got into a male-dominated trade. I got into, well, first off, I was in electronics. I was a radar technician. And, over a period of time, that wasn't for me. I decided I was going to remuster or I was going to leave the military. And I had met a person. And so when I did leave the military, I married that person and had children with that person. So my life went in a whole different direction. But while I was in the military, I went from being a radar technician into being transportation. Okay, and so in that transportation course, I was taught heavy equipment. So I have operated a loader, I have operated a grader, I have driven and operated snow plows, snow trucks, snow blowers, truck tank refuelers, all sorts of things. So I had that experience, which makes me unique because, I literally snowplowed an airport runway by myself, So that's something that you wouldn't see a lot of people doing in that particular time era, but I did. And I actually was one of the first female heavy equipment operators up on one of the bases that I was posted on. So there was only 2 females in the whole section, transportation section, and so I think that makes me unique. So I had the gumption, I had the balls, I had the determination and perseverance to make it first off through basic training, which was an endeavor. Trust me. And they pushed you to your limit. They pushed you to your limit to see if they could and to see if you would break. And there were times where I thought, I can't do this. But I did. I graduated. So, and I went through the first time. I didn't have to do it a second or a third. I went through basic training the first time. And right from there, I went to right across the country where I had no family, no connections, and I was taught driving skills. I had never driven before. I was 17, and I had never legally driven before, so I didn't have the skills that I needed. So they taught them to you, and they taught them to us in the mountains. So I remember driving up a mountain with a 5-ton. standard. And all I could see was the sky. Yeah, that's how big the mountain was. And I remember coming down that same mountain and all I could see was the ground. So you know what I'm saying? Like, that is a unique skill that I bring to the plate. Trust me, you haven't experienced until you've done that. And then we also were trained in blackout driving, where they put us in the middle of a field in the middle of the night with no stars, all cloud cover, terrifying, yeah. And then we would camp out and they would do a bug out and you would have to like disassemble your camp in a matter of like minutes. You had to be up and out of there. So these are skills that I learned. They, very stealth kind of skills, right? So I'm able to get things done in, before the enemy knows that I'm on my way. You know what I'm saying? So I learned that. You learn that. You learn those skills. You learn to be patient. You learn to have eyes all around. Like, you're very aware of your environment, right? And those are important skills, especially nowadays. So I learned all these skills through being in the military. Now, I learned to be self-sufficient, and the reason why I believe is because of how I was raised. I was raised in a single-parent family in low economic times when things were tough. Things were tough, and there wasn't a lot of work for people, and so it was hard. So I had to learn how to, I didn't do it, my parent did, but they had to sew our clothes, they had to plant food in the garden, they had to maintain a household on their own, because of when you're a single parent family, you have to take on the responsibilities of both parents. And so my guardian, my parent, did exactly that and taught me that I had to be resilient and strong. Even though I wasn't taught specific skills, just watching the person that raised me do those things taught me to be persevering and determined and not let things hold me down, okay? So I think that those are important skills. I learned how to bake, I learned how to cook, not by doing it physically, but by watching, okay, by watching. So I'm frugal, I'm good at balancing the books. I know what I've got, to use in financially. I know what I've got in my budget, and I know how to use it to good avail. So those are things that I learned. Now, when I was 17, the teachers in my high school went on strike, and my authority figure said to me, well, if you're not going to school, you're going to have to get a job. Yeah, because you're not staying here for free. So I did. I left. They signed the papers. I left. I went to the military, and that was the end of that. And, I don't look back on it. I think that it was the divine's way of guiding me into my future that was going to help me in some way. And so I left that, and I went to the military. I learned skills in the military, and then I did leave the military to get married and have children. And then my skills went in a whole new direction. But I carried those skills that I learned in the past with me into the future. So I was always very creative. So the job that I got straight out of the military, the first job was I was working in an arts department, and I was in that process where they would make the Matchbox covers back in the day. And so I was in that creative process. I was involved in that. And so I thought it was great. It was a learning skill. It was something that I think I was good at. Now, I don't have a boss I can ask if and truly I was good at it, but I was involved in that process. So it must have been good because it made it through the lines and to the final product. that was a good thing. I also have other skills. I know how to can. I know how to grow a garden. I know how to preserve food. I know how to dehydrate food. I'm amazing at baking. I'm good at cooking. I can make a meal out of anything. And those are all frugal skills that I learned through the years, and not just from my childhood. But I mean, I had a mother-in-law who taught me how to bake bread. And I can make some pretty good bread. And she used to make like 50 loaves of bread at a time. You know what I'm saying? And flour and water and yeast, that's it. That's all she had. And I'll tell you, that was the best bread ever. So that was good. And then I think some other skills that I have is, and I got to give laurels to where the laurels belong, because I worked for this lady she was amazing. She was in her 70s. She would work from morning till night. She was very family orientated, but the thing that kind of gave me a little boost was that this woman was in her 70s, and she graduated university with a master's or a doctorate, I'm not sure what, with her son. She went to school with her son at the same university and graduated. And I think she even got a higher mark than him. Like, you know what I'm saying? So she was like a role model for me. She was like an amazing woman. And she's up there now with our maker. And I have to give her accolades, because she run that household like a tight ship. Her son had an accident, and he ended up being in a wheelchair for the rest of the remaining years of his life. But he was a young man when it happened. But she did everything to ensure that that young man had the best possible life that he could possibly have. And she did it. She would go to battle against anyone for her kid, for her son. And it didn't matter. I mean, it didn't matter what age he was, because, you know, he lived quite a while after the accident. And she made sure he had the best doctors, he had the best clothes, the best food, he had his own place. She gave him that sense of independence, that he didn't have to live under her roof now that he was disabled. He could still have a life. And, you know, that taught me a lot. I just, you know, I praise her for that. I give her accolades for that, because she not only did that for her son, but she taught me as a young woman, and I worked for them for many years. I think it was 7 years. And she taught me the basics to believing in myself, to persevering, to being determined, to being strong. And I am. I'm a strong woman. I'm strong-willed. I'm very determined, very persevering. I mean, think about it. I had a heart attack, 2 strokes, 3 bouts of cancer 10 years ago, and I'm still alive to this day. And I give accolades to that woman in particular, because I believe that she made me into the woman that I am today, just by watching her, by her example. So I give her amazing accolades. She deserves a gold star for that. She taught me a lot of things. I was a very timid young woman. I thought that, you know, I was lower than low. And I thought that, you know, my life didn't really mean anything to anybody. And she taught me that who I am depends on how much effort I put into it. And I put the effort in. Trust me. And I mean, when I was in the military, it's the first time I had ever driven in my life, but when I met this lady, I was able to drive in major city centers. I wasn't scared. I was able to, you know, keep up with the best of them in any type of conversation. I was determined. I was fiercely fit. I joined a gym. I was in the best shape of my life. I had a set of abs on me that were hard as a rock. Yeah, and that was back in, I think it was in my late 20s, my early 30s. And I'll tell you, I kept that right up until I was in my 40s. And then I started to have issues, right? So health-wise, I had issues health-wise, anxiety and there was a lot of things that happened to me during my 40s and my 50s that I wouldn't wish on anyone. But they made me, those experiences, good, bad, and ugly, they made me into the person I am today. So those are my unique skills, I believe, is that I have a varied range of education, work experience. I've put myself in different situations, and, there was situations where I had to literally, find a way out. That wasn't very easy, and I did that. I was determined to have a better life than what I had witnessed in my youth. So I was determined to not fall into the same footprints as those who came before me. I was going to make something of myself, one way or the other. And my big goal in life was to own my own business. I wanted to have that freedom, and I achieved it. I did. I had my own business. Now, I didn't have it on the books for a long time. I didn't own that business for a long time because I got sick. I had a heart attack. And so, and then, I had a couple of strokes, I had a couple of bouts of cancer, and so I wasn't able to maintain that. But never say never. Who says it's not going to happen again? Who says that at 63 I can't start again? Not me. And from my life experience and my work experience and my relationships that I had in my life that were strong and viable, I've learned that if I persevere, I can put my mind to anything. I can do it. I can succeed, and I'm here to tell you that you also can succeed in anything that you put your mind to. So I shall see you on day 18, and stay unique, stay you. The good Lord be willing. I'll be back.